Today's program is brought to you by pennystockprofessor.com. For all the best OTCBB stock picks, sign up at pennystockprofessor.com. Thank you for tuning in to TBC Today. I'm Brandon Vincent.
And I'm Angelina Soriano. In today's national news, Sarah Palin is lashing out at the portrayal of a character with Down syndrome on the Fox animated comedy Family Guy. In a Facebook posting headlined Fox Hollywood, "What a Disappointment," the 2008 Republican vice presidential nominee and current Fox News contributor said last Sunday night's episode felt like another kick in the gut. Palin's youngest son has Down syndrome. The episode features the character Chris falling for a girl with Down syndrome. On a date, he asks what her parents do. She replies, "My dad's an accountant and my mom is the former governor of Alaska." Palin's oldest daughter also quoted on her mother's Facebook page, calling the show's writers heartless jerks. "When you're the son or daughter of a public figure, you have to develop thick skin. My siblings and I all have that, but insults directed at our youngest brother hurt too much for us to remain silent." Bristol is quoted as saying, "If the writers of a particularly pathetic cartoon show thought they were being clever and mocking my brother and my family yesterday, they failed." Palin wrote that she'd asked her daughter what she thought of the show, and Bristol's reply was a much more restrained and gracious statement than I want to make about an issue that begs the question, when is enough enough? This isn't the first time Palin has spoken out over an attack, real or perceived, on her family. Last year, she condemned a joke David Letterman made about her daughter, for which he later apologized. A Family Guy publicist didn't return an email seeking comment. Now to Brandon with more national news.
Thanks, Angie. In today's national news, the decision by the Justice Department came after prosecutors and federal agents reviewed the case in which 5 police officers fired 50 shots into the Nissan Altima that Mr. Bell was driving. The car struck a detective in the leg and hit a police van just before the officers began firing their shots. Mr. Bell was killed and 2 passengers, Trent Benefield and Joseph Guzman, were wounded. None of the men had guns, although the police officers apparently believed at least one did. In their review, the United States Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York and the Federal Bureau of Investigation did not find any evidence to prove that the officers had willingly acted to deny the men of their constitutional rights. According to a statement from the Justice Department, neither accident, mistake, fear, nor negligence or bad judgment is sufficient to establish any criminal civil rights violation. Any disciplinary action now lies with the police department, whose critics say that the shooting was an indictment of police training and the department's use of deadly force. The department can now pursue an administrative review of the case and the officers involved. 7 officers, including 4 of the 5 who shot at the car, have been internally charged with breaking departmental rules. Of the 5 who opened fire, all but Detective Headley remain on desk duty, with no gun and no shield. 2 other officers of the crime scene unit were also charged internally. The detective with failing to thoroughly process the crime scene and the sergeant with failing to ensure that thorough processing was done. If internal charges are sustained, some of the officers could be fired. Detectives Isanora, Oliver, and Cooper were acquitted by a Queens judge in April 2008 of criminal charges. The 2 other officers who opened fire were not charged criminally. Federal officers met with Mr. Bell's family later. Many in the Bell family and their supporters expressed disappointment in a news conference at the headquarters of the Reverend Al Sharpton's National Action Network. Ms. Bell said she hoped to get the attention of the White House. "There is a history of black men being killed by police officers, and something needs to be done," she said. "We're hoping to eventually meet with President Obama and that he'll do something, because this is a national problem." Anthony L. Rico, a lawyer from Detective Isanora, who was struck by Mr. Bell's car and who fired the first shot, said he spoke with the client, who was very relieved and gratified with the government's decision. Mr. Benefield, Mr. Guzman, and the family of Mr. Bell still intend to move ahead with a civil lawsuit. Mr. Sharpton said he hoped that a civil case as well as possible departmental charges would bring some justice to Mr. Bell's family and his wounded friends. And now back to Angie with a bit of health news.
When you've got a serious leak, it's time for Leak Ender 2000. It fixes any leak fast, no matter what's leaking. Just spray it with Leak Ender 2000, and in minutes, the leak is sealed. Look, we'll cut this garden hose with a knife, then shut off the water and spray on Leak Ender 2000. Minutes later, the hose is as good as new. The cut is sealed. Leak Ender 2000 is a unique compound that fills and seals any crack or separation as it hardens. Why put up with gushing gutters, dripping drains, wet windowsills, and rain-soaked RVs? Leak Ender 2000 stops all those leaks, and it's yours for only $14.95. Call now and we'll double your order. We'll send you this giant-size can at no extra charge. Order now.
To order, have your credit card ready and call toll-free 1-800-936-0300 or send check or money order for $14.95 plus $5.95 shipping to the address on your screen. Call 1-800-936-0300.
Thank you, Brandon. Now for today's health news. The study of more than 4,000 nurses showed that those who took aspirin to help prevent heart disease had a 50% lower risk of dying from breast cancer and a 50% lower risk that the cancer would spread. This is the first study to find that aspirin can significantly reduce the risk of cancer spread and death for women who have been treated for early-stage breast cancer. Dr. Michelle Holmes of Harvard Medical School, who led the study published in the Journal of Clinical Oncology, said, "If these findings are confirmed in other clinical trials, taking aspirin may become another simple, low-cost, and relatively safe tool to help women with breast cancer live longer, healthier lives." Holmes and her team studied 4,000 female registered nurses taking part in the Nurses' Health Study. They started in 1976 looking at who took aspirin, watching for breast cancer and all causes of death until 2006. Over this time, 341 of the nurses died of breast cancer. Women who took aspirin 2 to 5 days a week had a 60% reduced risk of their cancer spreading and a 71% lower risk of breast cancer death. 6 to 7 aspirins a week lowered the risk of spread by 43% and the risk of breast cancer death by 64%. Most of the women were taking low-dose aspirin to prevent heart attacks and strokes. Other drugs in the same class as aspirin also apparently lowered the risks too. These drugs, called NSAIDs, include ibuprofen and naproxen, but not paracetamol. The researchers said they are not sure how aspirin and other NSAIDs may affect tumors, but it could be by lowering inflammation. Other studies have shown that aspirin and ibuprofen can lower colon cancer risk. Aspirin has a relatively harmless adverse effects compared with cancer chemotherapeutic drugs. It affected both estrogen-positive tumors and those not fueled by the hormone. Holmes' team stressed that patients should not take aspirin while undergoing radiation or chemotherapy because of the risk of side effects.
Nothing is sexier than a strong, toned body. And nothing builds great bodies better than a genuine Bowflex home gym. Because only Bowflex home gyms have Power Rod technology, the secret to getting a strong, sculpted body fast.
I was absolutely seeing results almost immediately.
I love the results that I've seen.
It's probably the best home gym workout I've ever seen.
Call for a free DVD that shows how to get the results you want faster than you ever thought possible.
You can't diet your way to a body like this, but in just 20 minutes, 3 times a week, you can be a stronger, sexier you.
Have one delivered for $0 down and pay as little as $10 a month. Call now for a free DVD that shares the Power Rod secret of building a strong, fit body.
I think women with muscles are beautiful.
Those are Bowflex guns, that's right.
To get a Bowflex body, get a genuine Bowflex Power Rod home gym. Get started. Call now.
Now for today's entertainment news. The coroner who inspected the body of Alexander McQueen claims the international fashion designer hanged himself in his closet last week, and cops have labeled the death as non-suspicious. According to London officials, McQueen also left a suicide note, but the contents of the note have not been released. Officials say the note is being looked at by police. McQueen's body was discovered in his London apartment last Thursday. The coroner claims a full mortem report will be completed by April.
I'd like to thank you for tuning in to another TBC Daily News Update. I'm Brandon Vincent.
And I'm Angelina Soriano.